YouTube people, hey, greetings, folks on YouTube, Fake Zappa channel. I'm coming to you from Central Texas, which is a little towards the east part of the northern Central Texas area, in the middle of it, and a little to the west, if that makes any sense. Texas is a very significant place. We've had some horrific events here locally, and we thought that the state capitol in Austin was going to be sieged, and they had a whole bunch of people in uniform who were quite disappointed at the Trumpsters' revenge, which didn't happen here, at least not yet, because we are still involved in some executive orders from the newly elected president, Joe Biden. And it has been said today, and I quote, "We need a boring president." Well, I want to tell you today that as my inauguration, as your fake president, I will be anything but boring. Because, I hate to say it though, but I'm missing my beloved Trump already. He was so damn entertaining. He always had something up his sleeve, and he probably still does. So one of the things I want to do today, in addition to my special guest, of course, your favorite Louis the Turkey, and our Republican and Democratic correspondents, and of course, I'm packing heat. I mean, you can't be in Texas without being armed and not so dangerous with AAA batteries. And, of course, the Billy Possum, as part of my executive odors, not necessarily orders. So, without further ado, I am going to swear myself in, because as somebody who is training to be a cult leader, and the interesting thing about being a cult leader is nobody can ordain you a cult leader, because a cult leader is in himself his own follower, his own leader, his own ordainer, so to speak. And the only thing that makes a cult leader is followers. The only difference between somebody who has followers and no followers is somebody who's out taking a walk. So I'm out taking a walk today to tell you that I'm going to swear myself in. And before I do, and of course, if you're a musician and you have a Bible, you've got to have the Amplified Bible, because especially if you're a rock and roll guitar player like me sometimes, you're just not really cool unless you have a big amplifier. So this here is Mama Joyce's favorite Bible, and I'm going to read from Hebrews 11, because apparently we have a theocracy. We have a huge Bible-believing following that put President Trump in power, wanted to keep him in power, and they still praise him for his power that he currently has over the minds and hearts of millions of people who still have Trump 2020 signs and have being in farmland and mostly pasture land. There are Trump 2020 signs about every other house that you see in this part of the country. And it was one of those things where I told you so, and this was back in November. I said, I predict there's going to be Trump 2020 signs after the election. And now there's Trump 2020 signs after he's been president. So what I find interesting is the fact that, okay, when I applied for disability when I was in my early 30s, it was very depressing to talk about how many jobs that I had. And I really had to rack my brain. I came up with about 40 jobs that I had. And a lot of them I'd gotten fired from. And I can't think of one job where I was fired. And mind you, when they fire me once, not twice. Because when they fire me, I have to leave right away. And I'm not allowed back. And I'm not supposed to be working, and I'm not supposed to having the title or anything like that. But I find it amazing that when you're powerful enough and when you own the hearts and minds of all of these people, you can be impeached, not just once, but twice, and you still have a job. So it's amazing what faith can do when people believe what their president should be. And there are people today that believe that President Joe Biden is not my president, like we had 4 years ago. Not my president, not my president. And there are people today, including myself, that believe that the artist and mental health activist known as Fake Zappa is the president, not of the United States of America, of the United Countries of North America, which is 3 countries and maybe a few more that'll trickle sort of around in the Caribbean and the Caribbean. So, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 in the Amplified Bible. Now, faith is the assurance of the confirmation, the title deed of the things that we hope for, being proof of things we do not see, and the conviction of their reality. Faith, perceiving as real fact what is not revealed to the senses. So faith is so important in the lives of people because it is synonymous with delusion. Faith makes delusion okay. No, I'm not delusional. I believe. I believe. I'm not crazy. It's the fact that I believe. I have a Q flag. My Q flag is queer, queeranon. I am the leader of the secret homosexual agenda, Mr. Queer Anon himself, and I am going to swear myself in with the loudest Bible you can buy, the Amplified Bible, and I tell you what, it is not 6-inch thick, and it is not 130-something years old like Mr. Biden had earlier this morning when he put his hand on this wonderful, I mean, this thing was 6 inches thick. It actually looked even bigger than that. I think they need to measure it again. And mind you, when you have something that's 6 inches, you've got to have a woman measure it, not a man, okay? So keep that in mind. So a 6-inch thick Bible, and he put his hand on that. And I tell you, man, that thing was heavy already. I swear it was going to break right through that stage. So, as your fake president, and as somebody who is swearing myself in with my own authority, because I get my authority from myself, which is what cult leaders do, which is what a lot of crazy people do. And I embrace my fake. I embrace my crazy, because it is okay to be crazy if you have a lot of people who also enable that crazy. And it's amazing that we had a president who was so obviously crazy and people enabling his crazy that it was interesting to see how his demeanor had changed over the last several weeks as his crazy was being challenged, not by the majority of the Americans, but by the vice president himself, Mr. Bible Guy. And I got to tell you this, though, before I swear myself in, and when I swear myself in, I'm going to use some 4-letter words, because you can't be sworn without fucking swearing, which is very important. I didn't see that on live television today. But one of the most interesting things I noticed about Vice President, or as we call former Vice President Mikael Pence, is on the 6th of January, he would come on TV and he would say a speech. And then President-elect Biden would also come on TV with his white hair and say a speech. And I admit, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, I heard one talk and I heard the other talk. I can't tell the difference between the two. They are really alike, especially the fact that they are both turning their back on our beloved Donald Trump. Now, here's the thing, is I was wrong about Pence. I thought that if he was going to turn his back on former president, Mr. Beloved Trump himself, that it was going to be over an issue of faith, not necessarily, I mean, like, because, Bible believers, they just, the family, this family, that is such a big priority. And here this guy is like this, has a history of being a womanizer. And so I thought, that was going to be an issue. But then again, I've been around a lot of Bible believers and a lot of womanizers seem to be tolerated a little too much among Bible circles. So, without further ado, I'm going to swear myself in on the most loudest Bible. It's not 6 inches thick, but who gives a shit? That was my second swearing of me being sworn in as your fake president, not of the United States of America, not of the divided states of America, but as the United Countries of North America. Here it is. I, Fake Zappa, the multimedia artist and mental health activist and currently full-time traveler, American citizen, and not necessarily a citizen of any state right now by the power of the state of Texas or the state of Oregon or whatever dozen or two states that I've been in the last couple of years. I don't quite remember. I do swear myself in with the word fuck as your fake president because I believe it. You believe it. If we believe it, it is real. All we need is more belief. All we need is more faith. And delusion becomes okay. And that is why I do so not so solemnly swear that I will serve North America, the nation of Mexico, the nation of Canada, as one entity ruling this hemisphere with the people in cold places, the people in hot places, and the people in moderate places. I do solemnly and not so solemnly swear that I am the president of North America. So help me gosh! And my running mate is right here. So please give a warm welcome to Buddy the cat. Hi, Buddy. How you doing? It's been a sad day for him because he suffered a little bit of a cat attack today with one of the neighbor kitties. It was really mean. And so I opened the back door, and he wasn't lying down on the back door. He was standing up. So I couldn't hardly even open the back door of my travel trailer here because he was standing up and he was standing guard, and he had a pretty strong stance there. And you will notice that I have these scars from last weekend when he was very, very antsy. So I will say some things here that might offend some people, but I want to tell you that this word that I'm going to use with this animal is interchangeable. And I don't mean any disrespect to any females right now, but I want to call you a term of endearment. Are you ready? That's a good pussy. I love my pussy. Hi, pussy. What's new, pussycat? Pussy, pussy, pussy. I love my pussy. I love touching my pussy. I love feeling my pussy. I love my pussy. You're such a pussy. Puss, 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 puss. That's right. I have a hairy pussy, and sometimes a wet pussy, sometimes a very open and willing pussy. And this pussy is now my right-hand man in ruling and reigning over this continent and maybe some islands in not only the Caribbean, but the Caribbean. Isn't that right, pussy? Pussy, 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 pussy. Alrighty. All right, give a hand. And according to how quality the camera and the screen is, you will notice that there is cat fur about every couple of square inches floating here. So I will mask up right now because of the pandemic of cat fur that is floating in my trailer right now too. So before I get to my executive odors, I will say that there are people who are watching speeches about unity, about the left wing and the right wing getting together. And so I have my right wing correspondent here, and I have my left wing correspondent, and we are going to talk about today's events. Here we go. Uh-oh, we've got Crazy Cat going on. Oh, another thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to make a donation of my 2 cents to DonaldJTrump.com, which I think is going to be really fun. So here we go. I'm getting another audio recording here, and I'm also going to have a timer for stopwatch. There it is. Start. Okay. Are you ready for the panel of experts that are going to talk about the peaceful transition of power? Now, we were all expecting something to happen today. And it was boring. It was so damn boring. I mean, I missed the gunshots. I missed the shouting. It was such a boring and peaceful transfer of powder. Do you mean power? Of course I do. It doesn't matter what I say, just as long as people believe me and they hear me. Yeah, but you look stupid. Being stupid doesn't matter when you believe. You believe. You're stupid. Stupid, 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 stupid. And we won. And guess what? I'm the top now. Oh, no, they're humping again. I hate it when they do this. Okay, you really need to stop. Okay, so what happened today? We had an amazing poet, and get this, and I think this was the best choice because there's been some talk of what it is like when us on the liberal left wing make conservatives angry. Now, we have had over 4 years of the right wing who is really good at pushing the buttons of us on the left and antagonizing us. And we are very, very easily antagonized. So, what happened today was actually some of the least amount of antagonizing I have seen from the left. However, there still was some of it. But the best possible thing that we could have done today at this inauguration at the Capitol building was the appearance of country star Garth Brooks. And look at that. He is so happy. Isn't that awesome? Because this world is influenced by America, and America is still run by old white men. So it's amazing that we have a young woman of color in the vice presidential seat, which scares a lot of people. But still, though, when it comes to that, we still have a guy who's nearly 80 years old. And so what I've noticed here in the last 4 years or so, it kind of reminds me of going to a nursing home when you got 2 old men who are both almost 80 years old and they got their walkers. and they're arguing about things that they've been fighting over for their entire lives. I mean, these guys were born in the 1940s. And here, all these young people have been trying to take sides and really what's been going on. And if you want to talk to your children about this, all you have to say is, now, Junior, our country is crazy, and we are waiting for this generation to die off so we can actually make sense and we can actually show some compassion, because it's nothing more than a couple of old men fighting in a nursing home, except the fact that they're not in a nursing home. They're in the fucking White House. And they might as well be holding up their walkers and saying, you damn liberal and you damn conservative and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. I do find it funny that we are a republic, and we got people called Republicans, and we are a democracy, and we got people called Democrats. And another funny thing, too, is that when it comes to conservation efforts, these guys are a little more into that. At least 100 years ago wasn't quite the same thing. And then we got people that are into liberty. But these guys are called liberals. I don't know where they got these names. I think some expert came up with them years ago. So, before I get to my executive odors, do you guys have anything else to say about what happened today? No, because it was boring. So, I would like to go to Florida and follow former President Donald John Trump and try to hang out near Mar-a-Lago, get some sunshine, and figure out what he has up his sleeve. So, thank you guys. I appreciate, and thank you for not fighting. And thank you, though, even though you were on the top, you didn't do it to completion. That's pretty nice of you as well, considering all the bad germs going around these days. So thank you guys. And it's going to be really fun to get to my executive odors today. Now, if you want to, you can go to fakezappa.com/blog, and there is some stuff called Keeping America Fake. Because when it comes to keeping America fake, and I've got it written all over my travel trailer and all over my truck, keep America fake, I've yelled it in places. I've said it online, and I even have this wonderful hashtag. And I put that hashtag on the sidewalks and parking lots of streets of places around this great nation. Keep America fake. So, to show my support, I will give my 2 cents to, and if you just do a Google search for Donald J. Trump, and then you go down a little bit, there's just something that's called Donald J. Trump for President. And apparently he can't even hold any office. I don't even think he could be a county commissioner or a mayor of a little podunk town. The poor guy. He can't have any power in any kind of government, at least not here, or at least not the title of it, although chances are he is going to influence not only the American government, but governments all over. And I think it's really funny that we got these guys from Europe that are getting on international television and kind of saying, "Hi, America, welcome back." We've always been here. It's just that Europeans have seen cultish leaders from everywhere from Russia to Germany to Italy. And if you go back in history, you'll find that most of them were cultish leaders. And they saw this coming. I just wish that a bunch of Europeans became the talking heads on TV 5 years ago, warning us what was going to happen. But no, we didn't see it coming. Not only that, though, my dear fellow granola crunchers didn't see it coming that the hillbilly militia of devoted Trumpsters are not only dedicated, but they are armed and kind of dangerous. And they have more than AAA batteries. And not only that, they have firearms without orange tips. So, It's really funny though when you go to donaldjtrump.com, the first thing that you see. Now, this wasn't the first thing that you saw a year ago on this site. It's changed. Do you know what you saw when you went to donaldjtrump.com 1 year ago? You saw black voices for Trump, women for Trump. You saw we're diverse. We don't want money. What we want is to show you that we are represented by all kinds of people that love Donald J. Trump and want him back and all this kind of stuff. But now you go to his website and the first thing you see is contribute. And not contributing sperm, I'm talking about cash, moolah. Here's the sad part. Here's the very, very sad part. You might have noticed this, but if you went to the presidential website for the campaign of Joseph Biden, the first thing you see is contribute. Not Trump's website, my beloved Democrat, not the multi-billionaire website. And not only that, one of the saddest things that I saw Mr. Biden do was he had this commercial that was running. Now, believe me, they could run all kinds of political commercials, but I couldn't even run a fake political commercial without fighting the advertising agencies of the super highway of the World Wide Web. And they're still giving me shit for doing comedy with political themes, trying to market and promote my latest music video called Thank You, President Donald Trump. And I'll get to that hopefully a little bit more. So here it is. This is Donald J. Trump's 2021 rhetoric. And what is he up to? The certified website of President Donald J. Trump. The 2021 sustaining membership. This program is vital to supporting Republicans across the nation and stopping the radical left. We cannot succeed without the ongoing generosity of our party's most valuable and loyal supporters. Does he still have loyal people? You bet he does. How long are they going to be loyal to him? There are still people that are loyal to Ronald Reagan. There are still people that sing the praises of people like Reagan and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's still a few people out there living in log cabins who sing the praises of a guy named Tricky Dicky. Now, they had a reason to impeach him that was pretty darn obvious. But when it came to colluding with Russians and inciting an insurrection, it sounds a little too sensational. But from our perspective, yeah, we believe it. And probably it's true. Although I'm not so sure about the whole Russian thing, though. It's just that when we're trying to impeach somebody, I think maybe we should have some evidence that makes a little more sense to the folks that are supporting the guy that we're impeaching, because otherwise it just sounds like we just want a Hollywood show, like the right wing was wanting a Hollywood show. So here it is. We're showing President Trump an updated membership roster before the end of the year, and we want to make sure your name is at the very top. So please contribute any amount immediately to get our updated list of patriots who renewed their 2021 sustaining membership ! So it's $45, $50, $100. I like that, $45, because he was the 35th president. Ooh, that's really cool. And I like these numbers here. $2,800. Let's see, other. I'm going to do 0.02 dollars. Oh, look at this. It says step up now and your gift will automatically have a double the impact. Make a monthly recurring donation and it checks it automatically. Well, if it checked it automatically, I guess I have no choice to not uncheck it. All right, get on the official January donor list. Donate an additional 2 cents automatically on the 25th, which is 5 days from now. Okay, continue with credit card. It says other. Please enter a value greater than or equal to one. One what? 1 cent? It just says one. It says one period. One period. Let me try this again. Continue with credit card. Come on, Trump. I'm already missing you, Trump. I'm already giving you my 2 cents. I want to give you my 2 cents. I miss you already. You were so entertaining, Mr. Trump. Please, let me put in my 2 cents. Trump, Make America Great Committee, also known as the, quote, in parentheses, TMAGAC, end quote, in parentheses, is a joint fundraising committee compromised participating committees Donald J. Trump for president, Incorporated, parentheses, DJTP, end quote, in parentheses, Save America and the Republican National Committee, also known as the RNC, contributions to the TMAGAC or any member committee are not deductible for federal income tax purposes. This is a this is a donation to a corporation, not a nonprofit organization. Isn't that cool? I like that. Because if you donate money to Fake Zappa, you can't write it off your taxes. Because I'm a business. Even though I'm an activist, I am not a nonprofit. I am a non-nonprofit, just like my beloved president. However, I am a better fake president right now because they can't impeach me. So, federal law requires us to collect and report the name, mailing address, occupation, and employer of each contributor whose contributions agreeable in excess to $200 in a calendar year, RNC Save America or election cycle, DJTP. Contributions to the TMAGAC made an individual federal multi-candidate political committee will be allowed according to the following formula. 75% of each contribution to first to Save America up to $5,000 / $5,000 to DJTP's recount account up to a maximum of $2,800 / $5,000. 25% of each contribution to the RNC operating account up to a maximum of $35,000 / $15,000, period. Any additional funds will go to the RNC for deposit of the RNC's legal proceedings account or headquarters account up to a maximum of $213,000 / $90,000. Oh boy. So anyways, my Facebook viewers are paused because I have exhausted the storage on most of my devices. So this portion is sponsored by, and I love this because hard seltzer seems to be the drug of choice during the coronavirus. Nothing better than Corona hard seltzer, low in calories and 4.5% alcohol. Oh, there's only half a can and some of it's full of something that actually tastes good, I put in it. All right. So, Buddy the cat is still, whoops. Okay, Buddy, fine. Sorry, Buddy. He was so peacefully sleeping there. And I so interrupted that. All right. So, welcome again, my Facebook viewers, and sorry about my phone being so full of shit. And I will get on to my next scam, which is my executive odors. And if you want to read along, the companion material is fakezappa.com/blog, and you go down to a couple of things and you will see something called Keeping America Fake. All right, I have a quote from Frank Zappa because chances are there is one Zappa fan that actually likes me because Frank Zappa fans want to put fake Zappa in a box because of their religion. They want to educate me on Frank Zappa and all the things that he did that he's not doing now because he's dead. So for those who like Frank Zappa and who like to continue to immortalize and worship this rock and roll god, I will give you a quote. Take a look at the people who have been president of the United States so far. Could I do any worse? All right, so as your fake president, I've come to value the things that make America great. There are also those things that we have lost. Some of those things in our proud history and perhaps things that we won't want to bring back, like the Floby and the super big gulp. Actually, we still do have those things. They've just gone into hiding. There are these things that this great nation has lost, and your fake political figure, I take the and introduce some pieces of our diverse history that nobody has the guts to bring back. I am not bringing back Law and Order or the Golden Girls. I'm talking about pieces of our past that you might not even thought of, or things that we've lost that nobody wants back. In addition to these lost treasures, some of these things we're improving upon is an amazing, important initiative that we have been treasuring in our country for generations called daylight savings time. I mean, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Except if you're in Arizona. Those blasphemers in Arizona. How dare they be exempt to such a sacred institution as setting your clocks an hour back and forth every fucking year? So the first thing I will introduce, and I must tell you that CBS News, when they went to the presidential graveyard that Mr. President Joe Biden was at today, they said, this is the burial place of, well, of course, the unknown soldier, and we all know who he is, right? His name was Bob. And another president that they mentioned that was buried there, in addition to President William Howard Taft. How often do you hear his name? And here it is today. It's Inauguration Day. You heard the name of Taft on live national television. So it is with that pleasure of mentioning my favorite president, the greatest president, the most wonderful president, of course, that we had in girth, in weight, and size, and fluffiness, William Howard Taft. And if you want more information, you can go to Fake Zappa, and I have a whole thing about Taft on there as well, and why he is so insignificant. I mean, he is so significant in this time because of what the Republican Party used to be over 100 years ago. It was really, really strange. And I also did a 4-minute video because it takes over 10 minutes to read my rhetoric about William Howard Taft and the Billy Possum. I love you, Billy Possum. I want to see you back. I want to see you in the glory that you needed to have. I want to see Billy Possums in the hands of every child, not only in the United States of America, but in Canada and in Mexico. Not only that, Billy Possum Jr. I love you too, Billy Possum Jr., even though you kind of look like a hedgehog. You are a symbol of American, Appalachian, hillbilly delicacies. And really, listen, America, and more specifically, North America. When it comes to symbols of America, You have to know the history of the teddy bear. What is the teddy bear and how did it start? I'll get to that in just a minute here. As we know, the teddy bear, and this isn't really much of a teddy bear, but I'm going to bring up Louis the Turkey, who is usually my gay correspondent, but he is going to represent Teddy Roosevelt and a mascot of American compassion and empathy for the underprivileged, which is the symbol of the teddy bear, and something that is so cuddly and so lovable, and yet at the same time, one of the few animals in North America who can actually eat people. Isn't that right? Yeah. So anyways, teddy bear, I love you, and I'm going to tell your story. During the popularity and the celebrity status of Mr. Theodore Roosevelt, he was asked to go on a distinguished bear hunt. And his comrades shot a bear. They shot another bear. Or maybe they didn't. But if there's one thing we did know is that Mr. Roosevelt, I'm saying that because there's a double O in there, didn't get to shoot a bear. So what they did to make sure that Mr. Roosevelt came home with a delicious, freshly killed bear, and believe me, you cut them up like pork, because bears are related to pigs. And you can have bear bacon, you can have bear grease, you can have bear chops, you can have bear loins, and anything you can cut from a pig, you can get from a bear, but it's bigger and it's gamier. But no, Mr. Roosevelt did not get a bear that day. So what they did was they found a bear that they could tie up, and they tied this bear to a tree. And they brought Mr. Roosevelt, and they brought him his rifle, and they said, "Why don't you shoot that bear so you could say that you shot a bear on the bear hunt?" And you know what Mr. Roosevelt said? That was unsportsmanlike. And he didn't do it, and he set the bear free. And that's the story of the teddy bear. And it became, and it still is, America's and all over the world, a beloved plush toy and a term of endearment, especially when you're in love with a fat, hairy old man. You are my teddy bear. Even Motown had a song, or somewhere in the early 60s in the Motown era, about my teddy bear. And it has been a beloved story because he spared the life of an iconic American animal. However, now, let's go to the Billy Possum story. This one here is amazing. I'm talking about amazing with a capital I, because when it comes to the Billy Possum, they said, well, okay, now that we have William Howard Taft in president seat, we need another, and I mean another with a capital N, we need another plush toy to take its place. Now, it would have been cool if the Billy Possum did catch on, that we were to have plush toys from every president. So it makes you think, who would be Obama's plush toy? Trump had a plush toy. It was called a Trumpy Bear, and it was so well done, and there's not a lot of viral videos that I like But if there's one compliment I get about my videos is that people say, we can't tell when you're serious, fake Zappa. And the Trumpy Bear was so obviously not serious. However, it was done in a way that made it look like it was really a collector's items for Trump supporters. So, without further ado, I want to talk about the story of my beloved Billy Possum. There was even the Billy Possum March. I mean, they had everything that was at their disposal. And this was over 100 years ago. This was before Twitter and all of that bullshit. That in those days, they actually hired composers to actually put dots on paper in order to promote a product. Wouldn't that be cool if they paid me to put dots on paper for things like plush toys? So what happened was President-elect William Howard Taft was invited to a Georgia bank. I think it was in Georgia, was it? Okay. He was invited to a Georgia banquet, and he asked for his favorite Appalachian delicacy, possum and taters. It's okay. It's not you. They're not going to kill you. You're a symbol of America. He actually ate people ate possums in those days. They're kind of greasy, but you know, I don't know, something that pretends like it's dead when you find them and smells like it's dead is not something that I would either want to eat or want to cuddle with. I'm sorry, but except for this guy, he's awfully cute. Especially Billy Possum Jr. So what happened was when toy makers saw the popularity of the teddy bear and every little kid wanted a cuddly bear to sleep with at night, because who doesn't want to sleep with a dangerous carnivorous animal all night and cuddle up to it? That's what America wanted. They didn't want the Billy Possum because they hated President Taft and they hated possums. And if you find one at a garage sale, probably no one's going to know what they are. And if you find a really good quality one, chances are you might get some hipster-looking fuddy-duddy on the Antiques Roadshow that's going to give a little speech about the Billy Possum and say that that's worth $4,500 at auction. And I think in order to keep America fake, we need to bring back the Billy Possum. And I want to bring back the Billy Possum not only with a certificate of authenticization, I want to authenticize the certificate itself so that you know for a fact that not only this revamped edition of the Billy Possum is not only authentic, the certificate that authenticates it is also authentic. So that is one of my biggest executive orders, and I'm going to sign it right now. Signed, Fake Zappa. Yeah, you know, it's so funny, you know, when President Biden started his job, I think it'd be really cool if he like cleaned a toilet. I think it's really funny. Okay, it's time to go to work. We need your signature. So, speeches about unity. If I was Mr. Biden and if I was going to talk about unity, there were a lot of things missing today from speeches about unity. In fact, last week he got on national television and he was talking about unity, and he was talking about people that he thought were being irresponsible with the crisis and things like that, and he told them to grow up. So basically he's telling his opposers that they're acting like children, and whether they are or they're not, I think it's a little tacky to go say, hey, I'm going to talk about unity, and at the same time, the next sentence, I'm going to insult the people who I want to unify with me. So, anyways, that'll be interesting to see what happens, because when it comes to the right wing over the last 5 years, they are so obviously antagonizing the left that it makes everybody freak out. What we don't realize is how those of us on the left are still antagonizing those on the right. We just do it with pizzazz. We do it with class. So, yay, Mr. Biden, good luck. And as much as I liked that speech, I'm going to give the footnotes. I'm going to give the extended DVD bonus feature version of what President Joe Biden should have said today. He should have said, I don't blame you guys for supporting that president because of how we've treated you under 8 years from a guy whose middle name was Hussein, who scared the shit out of you guys for all that time. And meanwhile, we on the hyper-educated progressive left have belittled you and have overly influenced the media in ways to make you look stupid, to make you look like bad people. And me, as president-elect, I'm sorry for that. And I don't blame you for supporting a guy like Trump because of the way we've treated you. And here's another thing that I wish he would have said. I acknowledge your suffering. I acknowledge the fact that statistically the people on the right wing are misrepresented not only in mainstream media, but a lot of you guys are really good hard workers, and a lot of you guys are responsible for our law enforcement, our military, and our food. Not only that, you wear sexier clothes. You preserve American culture better than a lot of progressives do. And what was the other thing? Country music, of course. So if he didn't have Garth Brooks on there today, I would have really thought less of our new president, because it's really interesting watching CBS. And as much as I love CBS and I love Stephen Colbert and a lot of my liberal heroes, I remember this was back in later 2017. Here we had President Trump in for several months at that point. And I remember in October of 2017, I was sitting down with my favorite Trumpy at the time, and I was watching Colbert almost every night for a year. And I got a little tired of his Trump jokes because they were getting a little old, but I liked them because he always had something funny to say. And of course, Trump always did something funny in order to make jokes about him. And I didn't see what that was doing to the American right, which was almost every other person in this country. And here's one of my favorite and one of the most talented comedians, Stephen Colbert, who succeeded at pretending to be a conservative for several years on cable television. He was hurting people. He was really hurting people that I loved, who opposed my views, and at the same time, these were my neighbors. And he was saying things and pushing their buttons, just like the president was saying things and pushing my buttons. And I thought, if we're going to make unity, why are we creating an aversion for the other side? Why are we antagonizing? Why are we taunting the other side? And I have gotten into more trouble here, especially in the last several weeks, by who I associate with, by who I compliment, by who I apologize to, without necessarily enabling their views, but it's just the fact that I dare to say I'm sorry to American conservatives by how people like me have treated them, especially for almost 5 years. And I wish that would be acknowledged on mainstream media. There are a lot of things that people say that don't get highly published, and I like to say those things. And one of the biggest things that I've gotten in trouble for on social media was apologizing on behalf of those baby killers that support my views that I am sorry for how we have treated the right wing. I'm sorry for how we haven't valued them like we could. And I think there's going to be a lot of sore winner attitudes. And I believe that we are further criminalizing the anti maskers, the anti vaxxers, the rebel flag wavers, and all those people. And not only that, though, especially on CBS, because CBS, as much as I love them and I pay them $10 a month for their shit, uh, and I still have a hard time getting through this third season of Discovery because it's like, I don't know what it is about Star Trek Discovery, though, but do people really have that short of an attention span? This is not a movie. This is a series. You don't have to show a new story every 30 seconds. But apparently that's where we're at today. But I love you, CBS, and I think CBS is giving an amazing amount of visibility to African Americans disproportionately. However, they deserve it because it's been disproportional for years and years about them being underrepresented and misrepresented in the media. It's just that we need to realize that when we overrepresent a people like queers like me, it freaks people out. And I think we need to say, hey, it's not that Black lives matter any more than others. It's the fact that they've been underrepresented, and we need to overrepresent them a little more in order to balance things out, to make things a little more fair these days. And that's what we've had in the LGBTQ community for over 20 years. We have been overrepresented in the media, and I'm not ashamed of that. I just wish we would explain a little more, and I wish we would acknowledge that that freaks a lot of people out. All righty. So, with my running mate here, Buddy the cat, and I'm sorry, Buddy, you're sleeping again, but I'm going to bring you up, and I'm going to talk about some executive odors today when it comes to the things that I'm going to do as fake president. Now, here's the thing about being a vice president, Buddy. You don't have to do shit. You don't have to do anything. You just have to look cute, because after a while, you've gotten me out of a lot of trouble, you know that, just because of your fluffiness and your cuteness. And you have increased my social life, which would have been closer to zero, because of how lovable you are, even though you treat me like shit. And being vice president, you're a mascot, you're a token. And unfortunately, what Black Lives Matter has turned into over the last several months, in addition to being a very, very much needed thing, and it still is a very much needed thing, especially after what happened last week here in Central Texas, I wish people would acknowledge that Black Lives Matter has not only been a good movement, it has been an excuse for a lot of very rich and very powerful and overly popular and overly educated old white people to get on the white guilt bandwagon and to use African Americans as mascots, just like this cat, to say, look at what a good person I am. I have this mascot. And I really hope that Mr. Biden isn't using this wonderful Harris person as a token and as a mascot. I really hope that she has a voice. I really hope that they give her power. I really hope that she finds a way to actually, well, maybe not her finding a way, but we got a guy that's in the last couple of years of it, he's actually outlived his life expectancy. The life expectancy of men is about 74, 75 years old. So he's in his bonus years. So chances are we are going to have a woman of color because we've been ruled by old white men for a long time. So I will say that as my vice president, yes, I admit that this is a mascot that I am using. I am owning this creature. And I really hope that they don't do that to Miss Harris. I think. I think that would be really terrible if they were to just not allow her to have any power, to have any real voice. I hope that they allow Miss Harris to really make some real change in this country in a way that doesn't antagonize people that are freaked out of her. One of the things I think is funny is I guess it's no longer okay to say Indian to somebody who has Indian heritage. It's South Asian now because when I saw it, I'm like, South Asian, Filipino, Indonesian, what do they mean by, oh, Indian? Well, like that just reveals how ignorant I am of our current vice president. But hey, at least she doesn't stand up for conversion therapy like our old vice president did. So, one of the things I'm going to get through some of this stuff here kind of quick because I usually do 2-hour speeches, and I don't know if I want to do the full 2 hours or not because I've only gotten to one of my executive odors. But one of them is I want to bring back a little something that we call the anti-Nebraska movement. It was never really called the anti-Nebraska Party, but if you look at the roots of the Republican Party in the United States of America, you will see that the Republican Party used to call itself anti-Nebraska, and it had to do with a thing that had to do with Nebraska, and that had to do with another flat, boring place we call Kansas, and about their opinions, and about the way they dealt with something we call slaves in those days, and people didn't like it, and it was the Republicans back then who were doing this anti-Nebraska thing. But I think if I was going to call something anti-Nebraska, I would just say that I went through Nebraska last year, and I want to tell you, it is as boring as our president is now. And if I'm going to rekindle the fires of the anti-Nebraska movement, it's just the fact that we need to fill Nebraska with world attractions. We need to have more Disneylands and Disney Worlds. We need to have Six Flags, Sex Flags. We need to have Six Fags. We need to have theme parks all over the state of Nebraska. We need to have Nebraska become something more like Nevada, like Las Vegas, so people will want to go there. And that's why I call it the anti-Nebraska Party, because if not, they shouldn't be allowed to be a part of the union. No state that is that boring deserves to be a part of this great nation. So it's keeping America fake. We need to have things that look good. Okay, so here is something that I think as liberals are taking over, and especially the fact that we are criminalizing a lot of people for their affiliations, which might be on the right wing. I'm going to rekindle something that has actually been a real part of our nation, especially in the last year. And I'm calling it the supersized anti-socialism, the supersized anti-socialism initiative. It is way more cool than McCarthyism. So have your credit card ready when you call the fireman. We're going to privatize everything. And not only that, if anybody even says that the government should pay for their police cars, their streets, their health care, their mental and dental health care, if government is going to pay for anything like an ambulance or a fireman, that they are going to be branded as a socialist. And not only that, we need to define the word socialist because, well, a lot of people do already. But apparently, a socialist is a communist, and a communist is a Nazi. I'm going to say that again. A socialist is a communist, and a communist is a Nazi. Which, as much as I don't like much of any of those, apparently that's what I am, according to a lot of my beloved right-wing friends. So, another thing too is I want to bring back a form of slavery. Basically, what I want to do is not bring back actual slaves. It's just that if somebody has a lack of choices because of their social status, their economic status, or any disadvantages that they have, whether they chose or not because of their religion or where or how they were born or whatever like that, if they have lack of choices, if they cannot pursue their dreams, the American dream or the North American dream or the Canadian dream or the Mexican dream or whatever dream it is that they might have because of disadvantages, we might as well call them slaves. And I think if we call them slaves, maybe we will want to do something about it. Now, I have buku privilege when it comes to being an old white man, when it comes to coming from the family and the place that I have come from, and a lot of my skills and things like that. However, I have come to realize that in the last almost 5 years that I don't have enough privileges in order to live, to pursue my dream. I don't have the fair choices to be able to be heard like other people are heard, no matter what kinds of shit I put on the internet. And if you haven't realized this, 15 years ago, social media was different than it is now. The principles that rule and reign over mainstream movies, television, music, news, and media, and even activism are the same principles that now apply in social media. It's called privilege. It used to be anybody could be seen equally because the algorithms were different and there were other things that were different and it wasn't so plastered, and people haven't quite figured out how to infiltrate and saturate social media like they do now, that there was a lot more equality when it comes to stuff like that. So, if anybody makes a list of their disadvantages and how that takes away their choices and rights as compared to other people with advantages, we might as well call them slaves because they are owned without literally having their name signed away in some kind of pauper's prison or some kind of debtor's prison like they used to be. And not only that, when it comes to young African American men in a trailer park in middle America with a joint next door to a bunch of white hillbillies in the same trailer park with a joint, for some reason the black guy gets thrown in prison and he has a lifetime of slave labor while the hillbilly gets a slap on the wrist. And if you don't know that, you need to come to Texas or somewhere. I wrote an article, and I need to say a retraction about the article I wrote about a year ago called "What Is Hugga Trumpy All About?" and how I talked to so many Trumpies and I find out that they are really not racist like we call them racist. And then I spent most of this last, since June in what I call the prairies and the Rockies. So we're talking about everywhere. I started South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and then through the Midwest, and then staying in different places around Texas and talking to a lot of people and having confrontations with a lot of really fucked up old white men. And I want to say that I need to reevaluate whether I call Trumpies racist or not. It's just that I like to define racism in a way that the left wing and the right wing likes to define it and find out some middle ground and say, okay, what really is racism? Well, when it comes down to it, though, I think that racism is a symptom of something that's greater that the left wing is just as equally responsible for when it comes to owning people. When it comes to owning people without privileges, it's just that, and this is something I'm going to get to here in a little bit too, which is called the new and improved KKK, which is the white guilt version of the Ku Klux Klan. As we know, white guilt is not nearly as deplorable as white power. However, it seems to be the same thing, is that we're white, we rule this place, and we're either going to rule with abuse or we're going to rule with throwing money and throwing advice at these poor, unfortunate people, and yet still stripping them of their power. All righty. All right, so when it comes to keeping America fake, some of my other executive odors are in the form of ultimate daylight savings time. Now, ultimate daylight savings time takes an absurd thing that we all hate, except if you happen to have clocks and watches that seem to go 5 minutes fast or 5 minutes slow every 6 months, at least you know that it's going to be synchronized for a couple of months and a little more accurate. Luckily, most of the timekeeping devices that I have are on my computers and phones and stuff like that that automatically change. However, sometimes we need to take something that doesn't work and make it ridiculous in order for people to think that it might need to change, which sounds like the last administration, which I'm really glad we had President Trump, because it showed how progressives were complacent. It showed how we were hypocritical and we're vulnerable. So thank you, President Trump, for showing us how complacent and vulnerable and hypocritical we have been on the liberal elite, the mainstream media, and the last administration that we had with President Barack Hussein Obama. So, when it comes to ultimate daylight savings time, really what it is taking something useless and making it even more useless. So I can't remember what the calculations were, but what you do is every month you have to set your clock. What we do is we take the hour and we divide that up in 6 months, and then you have to set your clock every fucking month. So, hopefully that'll make people so tired of setting their clocks that will say, why do we have this? Is it to make things easier in the summer or the winter? Or is it just somebody who had a bad day? And I don't know. All righty. I've actually got 3 cameras going. So hello to my YouTubers and hello to my Facebookers. And what I decided to do on YouTube was, right, stop the steal, because people were stealing my fake votes. Alrighty. So yes, uh, I didn't get a chance to put "Stop the Steal" on my Facebook thing though, but it'd be really cool to be blocked as a liberal who uses that hashtag just to be a twerp. And sometimes in my posts, I like to use these far right wing hashtags that are used by them, like Sleepy Joe, because yeah, as much as we need a boring president, it is kind of funny though to have a president now who who looks like he's ready for his afternoon nap when you hear him. And one thing about President Joe Biden, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more of this. We didn't hear a lot of it today, but I tell you what though, President Joe Biden looks a lot like President Trump and sounds like him too, especially when he uses his whisper voice, when he uses his loud whisper. So he'll say, "Dear American people, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah." And then he goes blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. You know, it's not like it's a phone sex line. It's just like he's sounding like a preacher. And so if you didn't have enough God Bless America and Bible references and hymns and all that kind of stuff with the Trump administration, we get under the progressive, liberal, new and improved president, we get more Bible, we get more hymns, we get more gospel preachers, and we get more church, and we get more stuff like this. And you might say, well, you know, there are not a lot of Christians left in America like there was 100 years ago. That is really not fair. Separation of church and state. Well, you got to think about it this way, though. And I saw a meme. Not only that, it was by a gay man who posted on his Facebook page this picture. You got to look it up. It is just as creepy as it is funny. There's a picture of Jesus in heaven and angels with Trump, and then you look on the other side, and there's all these pictures of demons and hell and all this stuff. And guess who's over there is Biden. You know, really no explanation at all. It's just that Jesus, God in heaven, Trump, the devil, hell, and whatever damnation and end of the world kind of stuff here is Joe Biden. And so here's the thing, is that if we have an administration who is going to taunt the religious right, we might as well have him quote the Bible and sing hymns. He sang a Protestant, well, not him, but I mean, he had Mr. Garth Brooks sing a Protestant hymn as going to a Catholic church, and they're like, "This is the same church that the it's like, where they had the funeral for Kennedy." Oh, how nice! And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, when is Trump going to get assassinated? When is Biden going to get assassinated? And nobody got assassinated. I'm watching the news right now. In fact, they just cut from a commercial, and now they're showing the White House with the fountain and stuff like that, which is not frozen. Oh, and so, anyways, the live news. Let's see what's on here. Oh, they have another parade here. Yay! And I heard Stars and Stripes Forever, whatever it is.
Of course, the new Vice President of the United States went to Howard University, and so there are two bands, the Drumline and the Showtime Marching Band, that will precede the Vice President as she walks down Pennsylvania Avenue. Julia Duncan is right there on Pennsylvania Avenue, just outside the White House, in view of the two bands from Howard, Jamaica.
Yes, we are, and they just passed us, but I can tell you last night we were with the band as they were practicing, and in fact I spoke to one young girl who's playing the cymbal, and she said, I watched Howard University perform in 2009 at President Barack Obama's inaugural ceremony, and she said, I looked at my mom, and I said, I want to do that, and here she is some 12 years later. She talked about why she chose Howard University.
I didn't get teary-eyed today. Actually, I was almost moved to tears and I was kind of embarrassed because I'm such a reluctant liberal. But I tell you what, this 22-year-old poet, oh my God, she stole the show. Yes, Garth Brooks was not only beautiful to look at, he was pretty darn nice to listen to. And it was respectful that he took off his big black cowboy hat. But man, it would have been sexy if he would have left it on. And something I'm realizing, especially when they cut to the first commercial break after the inauguration, I found it was interesting. Now, this is CBS News, but there's this Hewlett-Packard commercial, and they played it twice. And I was more moved by the Hewlett-Packard commercial than I was by the whole inauguration, because this commercial was beautiful. It showed these post-millennial kids doing all these amazing scientific things with their well, not laptops, a 2-in-1, they're touchscreen laptops, and you can pull it out and you can switch it around, and it's a tablet and it's a laptop and all that kind of stuff. I have a Microsoft one that was a piece of shit. And so they show these kids apparently in the future, and they got these amazing colorful outfits and stuff, and they got this amazing diverse group of people, and one little group of 4 or 5 of them come in the White House, and they're African American, Asian, and they got this tall towhead that's dressed up like this amazing, fabulous gay boy with this big red hair, and just beautiful. And then they've got, apparently in the Hewlett-Packard dream of the future, there's a young black woman who's president, not just vice president, and stuff like that. And she introduces herself to another big politician who's another young black woman, and so I'm thinking, yeah, this is beautiful. I love this, and I'm always trying to see things, because 20 years ago I was so right-wing Republican conservative when I was introduced to that culture in my 20s, that I still often see things the way they do, especially because I hang out with them too. So it's like, if it's not bad enough to have this inauguration, the first commercial they show on this particular network is basically saying, "Hello, America. We are now entering the age of the young black woman," which is great, because we have been in the age of the old white man for a long fucking time. And not only that, though, if you see the abuse of power, you're not just going to see an old white man. You're going to see at least 2 of those characteristics. You're going to see somebody who's either old, or who's white, or who's male. Typically, both of those. I mean, 2 of the 3. And I've noticed that in my own life, is that if I'm suffering abuse, somebody has 2 out of 3 of those characteristics, typically 3 when it comes to an old white man. Now, it's not to say that all old white men are power hungry, because a lot of old white men, especially guys middle-aged or my age, if we don't have recognition and friends and family and power and position and popularity and privilege and all that kind of stuff like that, there's not a lot of stigma about being an old white man. But I tell you what, if you're an old white man and you don't have a place of influence, there's stigma with that. And that's something I've never heard anybody say. I'm serious. Especially when it comes to a lot of old white men that are homeless, like veterans, PTSD victims, especially the mentally ill, because there's a sort of idea, there's sort of a myth that if you're an old white man, you are privileged. You just sort of have that. And yeah, there is a lot of privilege. And at the same time, though, a lot of that privilege comes from their recognition, not necessarily they're an old white man or not. So I find it interesting that there's perceived privilege with a lot of people, that they have a lack of privilege because everybody thinks they have privilege. It's kind of like the guy that walks into the bank and he looks like he has money, but he doesn't. All right, so here we are. It's been 90 minutes, and I thank you for watching. I'm going to go back to YouTube for a sec and see if... oh, gosh, we do have a lot of comments here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those who I have not interacted on YouTube. So if you're still watching, we have someone named Leo Fender that says play close to the edge. So, close to the edge, down by the river, look right away. Close to the edge, down with a liver, look right away. Seasons will pass you by. I get down by the river, close to the edge. I'm gonna fall. Okay, so for whoever it was that wanted to hear Close to the Edge by Yes, that was my spontaneous rendition on the 4-string cake pan mandolin, especially for you, Mr. Leo Fender. Okay, and so somebody also was asking me about the banjo uke. Does kind of look like that, but I do have, where is it? Here it is. An actual banjo! Yay. It's really out of tune. Old Trumpy went a voting and he got stopped. Old Trumpy went a voting and he got stopped. Old Trumpy went a voting and he got stopped by Nazi left-wing liberals who didn't like his red hat. Old Trumpy went a voting and she got stopped. Old Trumpy went a voting and she got stopped. Old Trumpy went a voting with an elephant, but they didn't let her in, and that did stink. Oh no! So the thing is, Republicans. One of the things that was so unfair about Republicans is that their pet of choice is their mascot, the elephant. And so the thing I didn't tell you, speaking about mascots, is when it comes to the Billy Possum compared to the teddy bear. There's Louie the turkey. Okay. So in case you missed this, I talked about the story of Mr. Roosevelt and the teddy bear, and the fact that he said it was unsportsmanlike to shoot a bear that was tied up, and he had mercy on the bear and he let him go. Now, William Taft ate his mascot. The story of the Billy Possum is the fact that he ate a possum, and he ate an opossum, however you say it, and that became the plush toy. A dead possum, not a spared possum. Okay, so we've got Mr. Brian Webb. Good to see you there. It says the smart speakers speak lower. Dumb people think fast talkers know what they're talking about. And Trump was dumb. Well, if dumb means somebody who's unable to talk, that definitely wasn't the case. But the amazing thing about Trump is that he used whatever smarts he had to his advantage, including whatever stupidity he had to his advantage as well, which is one of the things that I do because I love doing stupid things. I love saying stupid things and getting away with it. So, somebody said, fake Zappa for president for life. Well, of course I can do it for life, because when I decide when and where and how I get to be president, I also get to decide how many terms I get to be president. So that's another something. Okay, so somebody said, Barplay, hi Zappa, what were we talking about? I don't know when you said that, and I'm sorry I didn't reply. But my best answer is, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Okay? The lunatic is on the grass. The lunatic is on the grass. Remembering days and days of chains and lies. Got to keep those ladies on the path. The lunatic is in my head. The lunatic is in my head. Ha, 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 ha. You ring the chain, you break the brain, you rearrange me till I'm sane. You close the door and throw away the key. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And if you think things are here, if there's no one on the hill, and if your head explodes with dark forebodings too, I'll meet you on the dark side of the moon. Oh, oh. The lunatic is in Mariago. The lunatic is in Florida. Did you vote for Trump? I wish I did, because that would have been fun. He was the POTUS. Now he's just a businessman, but some people think he's still the prez. Woo! And now that Joe Biden is the POTUS down, he is supposedly for us. And if your head explodes from dark forebodings too, I'll meet you on the dark side of the moon. I know somebody asked for yes, but I thought I'd play a little Pink Floyd too, just for fun. All right, let's see if there's any other comments I needed to get to. I think I got everybody's, and I wanted to thank you, and I'm going to continue to sign some executive orders and entertain people, because that's what politics is about. Before I want to tell you that, I had a really hard lesson this week as I tried to get involved in some activism, because there was a horrible tragedy that really moved me. And I'm sorry to be so damn serious right now, but there's a lot of things you don't see on the news. And this thing probably needs more buzz, at least as much buzz as the tragedy with George Floyd last year. And it's a fellow named Patrick Warren. And he was just an hour away from where I'm staying. And he was having a mental health episode. And on Saturday the 9th, they called for help. And a trained professional came and helped. The next day they called for help, and the trained professional wasn't available because apparently they were in church or something, and instead they just sent out an officer on some kind of wellness check. And I mean, within seconds, this man was shot 3 times and killed. What's even more upsetting about that is what's not being said, and the fact that there's not nearly as much buzz. One of the biggest proponents of making this issue visible was TMZ. Now, how often do you go to TMZ to go to a relevant social issue? It's pretty sad that you have to go to TMZ to find something that has a lot of relevant social content and quality to the importance of an issue like mental health and Black Lives Matter in the same incident. What I also found is that after talking to some of the locals too about how there's been a lot of cover-up here, and that's no surprise here in Central Texas. And I tell you, I could feel the tension when I was around the Killing area. And, I mean, they got a fucking town named Killing. I think they should change the name. They should change the name to Warren Texas in honor of this fellow who really suffered. And as a result of his suffering, now he's gone and his family is suffering. And pretty much all they have is a couple of things on the media. Hopefully there'll be more. And I think they've raised about $40,000-$50,000 now on a GoFundMe page. But I tell you what, they need more than that. They need more than money. What they need is powerful, important people saying things that need to be said. And what needs to be said, what nobody's been saying in any of the media that I've seen in this, is what could we have done to prevent his mental health crisis in the first place? Not just training police. And I've talked to folks in mental health nonprofits. I was even at law enforcement earlier this week, and the silence was weird. There was an eerie silence at the police. And golly. So I'm sure somebody's saying it somewhere, but the person that had organized a very bold and very heroic event on Monday was not supported. And I can't give somebody a voice when I don't have much of a voice myself. And after talking to somebody who was in Minneapolis and not too far from the killing of George Floyd, she was talking about activism efforts. And it made me realize more and more after earlier that afternoon on MLK Day as well, to make things even more intense, and the lack of support in that community, and the lack of visibility towards this horrible tragedy. And I marked this video as comedy, but I love to fuck with people and give a dose of reality. That activism has to do with popularity and privilege and power, not necessarily how much somebody suffered, not necessarily the life experience that somebody has in relation to their cause. So basically, if you're powerful, if you're privileged, whatever, you can pick any random cause and you can make change for that cause. It doesn't necessarily mean you've experienced it. It doesn't necessarily mean you've suffered for that cause. It just means you have the power to make something visible. And unfortunately, although there are a lot of people that are supporting a lot of good causes, and I'm sure some of these people that have the power have the right to say some of those things because of their life experience. Something else I've noticed is that activism is a clique. A lot of it has to know with, if you're going to be involved in some kind of activism effort, you have to be friends with the organizer. You have to have friends in certain places and all this kinds of stuff like that. And it sounds no different than entertainment. So what I've noticed is that entertainment sounds a lot like religion, and activism sounds a lot like entertainment. And not only that, religion itself sounds a lot like entertainment. And all of it is so synonymous with politics, which is why people around the world are saying, thank God for a boring president. So when it comes to mediocre presidents, that's why I love telling the story of President William Howard Taft, because I have stated that he could possibly be the most mediocre president that has ever been. Executive odors. Let me check my equipment again here. Alrighty. Time for more executive odors. Just in case you just tuned in, I talked about the reinstallment of the Billy Possum, an American icon and mascot that was lost because people hate William Howard Taft and they hate possums. And I think they're both wonderful and they should be back and they should have their place alongside of the teddy bear. And I talked about the anti-Nebraska Party. I talked about the supersized anti-socialism initiative. I talked about slavery. I talked about ultimate daylight savings time. And here's something I won't get into very much, though, but it's something I'm calling state rebordering. That we got a couple of states that are like rectangular, and we got states with panhandles. And I think it's about time that we need to change the borders a little bit so that people that didn't have panhandles get to have panhandles. And that people that had a boring rectangular state get rebordered a little bit so they can make cutout things that look like their state, like patches, electric guitars, stickers, logos and signs like the state of Oregon or the state of Washington or something like that. But I tell you what, Wyoming was the most beautiful state that I've traveled here in recent years. And they deserve more than a rectangle. Believe me, they deserve more than that. They're fucking beautiful. Colorado as well. I think that's another rectangle. I didn't spend a lot of time in Colorado though. They were one of the most COVID crazy places that I went to. I mean, we're talking both hyper over responsible and hyper irresponsible. Okay, I also talked a little bit about the new and improved KKK, which exonerates white guilt instead of white power. And if you've seen my music video, you will see me dressed up the first time publicly in my Nazi white hooded robe. And the reason why I call it my Nazi robe is there's no eye holes. So when you put on the right robe, you don't really look like a Klansman because there's no holes in there. It's all about what you not see. So it's just one of those things that I'm trying not to trigger people of color. And if I do, I want to know about it. And I'm definitely willing to change the approach that I do on some of my art because, a year ago, in fact, around this time a year ago, a guy that had a very powerful venue told me that I was dangerous. I was walking around with this red hat that said "Hug a Trumpy," and I was saying some things that a lot of people didn't want to hear. And I'm thinking, well, art is too safe, and if there's one compliment I can have besides the fact that people don't know when I'm serious and when I'm not, is I have to look deeper. You know, when you say something and people, they pass it off because they don't want to look deeper. If they're not going to look deeper, you might as well not even expect them to even want to understand you. So the kinds of people that I think if you have something to say, you might as well say it in a way where people are going to have to look a little deeper to find out what you're really saying. And then you know that they're spending a little more time to find out what you're really saying. So as far as that is, I've got a little something I'm calling corporate monsterhood. And corporate monsterhood is kind of like corporate personhood, but instead of your corporation being treated like a person, which makes people being treated less and less like people and corporations being treated like people, your corporation can be treated like a superhero, like an all-enveloping monster. So look out, corporate sovereignty. The monster is way bigger than corporate personhood. Okay, so there's a couple of things here that I wanted to get to. Again, I'm going to check my equipment because I'm having some equipment failure. All right, we're doing good. As I close up my 2-hour rant about serious things that are funny and funny things that are serious. Sponsored by the coronavirus seltzer. For those of you who drink and don't want to get fat because you're sitting around not working, drink coronavirus seltzer, 100 calories. I want to introduce something to the North American people and the people of the Caribbean and the Caribbean, a little something I'm calling the Mental Health Hyper Freedom Bill. It gives power to people for anyone to be a therapist and the liberty to counsel anyone to do anything, no matter what. I ain't going to go into detail about that, but I will later on this year talk about a lot of things. In fact, one of them, this is a secret, so don't tell anybody. It's even more of a secret than my closeted homosexuality. But then again, my virginity is growing back thanks to the virus and me trying not to be a creep magnet like I was. I want to tell you something that I am calling the Association of Recognized Disabilities, in addition to a non-profit called Wheelchair Public Relations. Get your picture with somebody in a wheelchair to make you look good. In cahoots, in association with something called the Association of Recognized Disabilities, which means if we don't think you're disabled, we won't give a shit. That's not the slogan, but kind of basically is. So we're talking about if we can see your disability, or if you have lots of friends and lots of family that will testify to your suffering, then we see you as a fake, we see you as invisible, we don't see you as suffering, and we won't care, and you will stand at the back of the line eternally as people get cut in front, because we recognize that person's suffering. We recognize this person's suffering. But if you suffer, no matter how much you suffer, in fact, the irony is the people that suffer with invisible disabilities are often alone, and they have no recognition for what they suffer with. And not only that, though, the fact is that the United States government has officially put their stamp of approval on a lifetime of suffering with mental illness, and that is not enough to be recognized as somebody who suffers and tries to cope with on a daily basis of something that needs help and support. So I thought it would be funny to form an organization that only focuses not just on recognized disabilities. Now, I will remind you, these are either disabilities that you can see right away, like in a picture. Oh, look, a disabled person. Get your picture. Or somebody who has a lot of friends and family that says, yeah, she suffers. Yeah, he suffers because I live with them and they have a lot of friends. And whether they really suffer or not, there's people that'll say they do, and then they get all this help. So, in addition to that, when it comes to public relations, it is really trendy. It is really popular these days to help people with not only disabilities. When they use the word disabilities, like when you watch a movie like Crip Camp, and they say disabilities, 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 what they mean is handicaps, which is a disability, and it needs attention, and it definitely needs help. It's just that in the media, if we see the word disability, and every time we see that, they show a picture or a video of somebody who you know right away that that person has special needs, or there's an actor in a wheelchair that's pretending to have it, you're moved with compassion, and you are brainwashed to be moved with compassion because of what you see, not because of what you hear. And that is why I think it would be really fun to have an organization that admits that it'll only recognize and it'll only help people if nobody challenges whether somebody's disabled or not. Because I have enough denial in a lifetime of suffering with disabilities to get me to be in denial, in addition to everywhere I go, I get denial. And that's really a good way to fuck with my head. And when you're in denial about your suffering, and everybody's in denial about your suffering, especially if you're an old white man, it's no wonder why people blow themselves up. It's no wonder why people collect firearms and they, oh, I'm getting way too not funny. I want to talk about something else here too, which is the last of my executive odor as I get into the last 10 minutes of my 2-hour rant. It is called the religious hyper freedom bill. Again, I will say it again. The religious hyper freedom bill, and the religious hyper freedom bill is you don't have to live in the USA to serve eternal beverages anymore. What is an eternal beverage? Drinking the Kool-Aid is something we hear not only, and I heard this ironically, last time I heard the expression drinking the Kool-Aid was in last fall. And I was hanging around a bunch of Trumpies, and they were anti-maskers, and they were very proud about not wearing their masks. And they said the people that wear their masks were drinking the Kool-Aid, which I thought was really funny because they're basically putting themselves at an unnecessary risk for a deadly virus, thinking that if they were to wear the mask and they were drinking the Kool-Aid of the lies of the liberal media. But anyways, enough of drinking the Kool-Aid. Let's see here. It says, why don't you stream on Twitch? Oh, thank you, Amanda. I'm on so much social media right now. I didn't know that Twitch was still a thing. That's how old I am. So thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate that. And maybe I will stream on Twitch. I'm streaming on Facebook right now, and of course, as you know, YouTube. And I remember there was an old person 5 years ago that said, you need to stream on Periscope. Well, Periscope was really cool for 5 minutes. And then that's kind of the way I felt about Twitch, was it's going to be really cool and then not. But that's the way I thought about SoundCloud. And now SoundCloud is like everybody with GarageBand has a fucking SoundCloud account. And it's putting all kinds of ridiculous shit on there and getting hits. And I resisted SoundCloud because I was on Reverb Nation thinking that was going to be the thing. So I don't know if Twitch is still a thing, maybe. But I am on TikTok. and for my TikTok viewers, if you happen to be seeing this, because I did put some blurbs about my YouTube, I would like you to believe that I am a Trumpy. I pretend to be a Trumpy a lot on TikTok. And I get a lot of positive comments from Trumpies thinking that I'm a Trumpy. And I think it's great that if I could pretend to be a Trumpy and reach out to people who I need to build bridges with, then I am not afraid of what people think of me, because I talk to a lot of folks on a regular basis that affirm my left-wing views. And if I give one little indication, I mean, just wearing American flags gets people to think I'm a stupid idiot that needs to be educated, then at least I'm showing the people of America how the left wing treats people that are not only on the right wing of politics and religion and culture, but those that they think are on the right wing of politics and religion and culture. Kind of like a little thing that went on about 60, 70 years ago called Black Like Me. During segregation, somebody painted themselves and looked like a black person to see how they were treated. Well, I'm seeing how Trumpies are treated. And that's why I sympathize with anybody who's persecuted, no matter how fucked up their views are. And it's been an interesting bunch of social experiments that I have been undergoing and suffering with for a long time. So when it comes to the the religious hyper freedom bill. If there's one thing better than religious freedom, it's hyper freedom. It's talking about if you believe something, no matter how spooky or goofy it is, if you believe in the Easter Bunny, you're a person of faith, and that entitles you to kill and to steal and to pillage and do whatever the fuck you want to. That's what the hyper hyper freedom for religion is, which means they can practice mental health, which they already do. They can counsel people to commit suicide. They can counsel people to do self-harm. They can counsel people to abuse women and to abuse children in the name of their faith. And I think it'd be funny to pass a law as your fake president of a fake region that isn't even a country, which I call North America, which could or could not include the Caribbean or the Caribbean, is I would like to create an island, because it's really hard to find an island that nobody owns anymore, except for maybe in northern Canada or something like that. But I would like to find a really pretty island where you could have a couple of thousand people there, and mostly nice people. But here's what I would do with this island. Okay, this is going to be one of my social experiments, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to check my faulty equipment one more time. Okay. Sponsored by Sony, which is not quite as bad as the Microsoft Surface Book 2, which I'm not streaming from because it's way more quirky than any of this other shit that I have. Is I'm going to create an island. And chances are it's going to be the Pacific Ocean floating garbage heap. If you don't know, there is, like, it's, I don't know, square mile or so. It's massive. It is years of trash. It's floating around, and it ends up in this huge island, this floating island. And all you need to do is cover it with concrete, and you will have something. And then maybe you could tether it to the bottom of the ocean somehow. And, you know, it's in international waters as far as I know. So basically, it'll be my sovereign jurisdiction. And I get to do any laws that I want to in that island that's on floating trash. And on this island of floating trash, I'm going to pass some really stupid laws just to see what happens with people and what they do with it. And one of those laws is I'm going to make it legal to murder people. And then if somebody gets murdered, then I'm going to pass a law, and I'm going to publicize this all over the world just to see what people think about it, to see if they know what I'm talking about. And chances are you don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you after. It's going to be a hint. No, I'm not going to give you a hint. I'm not even going to. I'm going to tell you what it is and see if you can figure it out. I'm going to pass a law after somebody gets murdered and somebody dies because of having a stupid law that says murder is legal, that you cannot murder anybody on this island unless the only people that can't murder anybody. Okay, now listen, the only people that can't murder anybody on my island are licensed therapists, and the only people you can't murder as a licensed therapist is a minor. You can kill anybody could kill anybody just as long as it's not a licensed therapist killing a minor. Yay! Everybody says yay! And then, oh yeah, not only that though, there's going to be 5 quadrants. like Portland, Oregon has got 5 quadrants. It's one of our dirty little secrets as growing up in Portland, Oregon. 5 quadrants on my island, the floating island of trash governed by President Fake Zappa himself. And my ordinance is that you can kill anybody just as long as you're not a licensed therapist and you don't kill a minor. Now, of course, okay, for those of you who haven't figured that out yet, I want to tell you that as a conversion therapy survivor, and people getting so excited about when one little part of the country, I'm talking about a state or a county or even a city, that passes a law against conversion therapy, but only in the context of the fact that you can't perform conversion therapy if you're a licensed therapist, and you can't do it to minors, which means a small percentage of a small percentage. Well, guess what? When it comes to people who are undergoing forms that of things that resemble mental health care, whether they call it mental health care or not, they call it pastoral counseling, they call it biblical counseling, anything that is influencing somebody to try to change their orientation is going to eventually lead them into mental health issues and self-harm, which puts them at risk for suicide, substance abuse, and all kinds of things that will eventually lead somebody to die. So, I want to tell you that one of the most lethal things, listen! One of the most lethal things on earth is murder. Did you know that murder kills people? When you murder somebody, they die. But I want to tell you something else. So does depression. And you can cause depression by trying to get somebody to do something that's impossible, or to believe something that is not real. It's going to fuck with their heads, and it's going to undermine their will to live. And if they're weak, if they're not strong enough, especially if they don't have anybody in their lives, they will disappear and they will die. So how's that for a funny show, huh? So when it comes to conversion therapy, and people are posting on different ex-gay therapy type sites, that I'm a part of a lot of those, and I tell you, when it comes to politics and art and news and social media, yes, we are in the age of celebrities, and even politics has to do with celebrity status. So, as my closing remark, as a conversion therapy survivor and somebody who has to be a celebrity to have my story heard in a way that's going to bring justice to the injustice, not only in my life, but to the lives of a lot of other men and women, mostly men, whose lives have been ruined and destroyed and who have been permanently disabled in various ways because of efforts they were either forced to or typically lied to and deceived and brainwashed into going through things in order to try to get them from a from a gay person to a straight person. It's no different than murder because the end result is death. And if you're happy because your little town and your little county and your little state is making it illegal for a small percentage of somebody to not practice that to a small percentage of somebody's, I don't think that's something to rejoice about. I am not happy when they ban conversion therapy in this place and that place, because having been involved in that stuff and even advocated for it for 5 years of my life, I also know that if somebody is a licensed therapist and somebody brings a minor to them, they will find a way, because all they have to do is change the name. It's not conversion therapy, or they change the setting. Don't go to my office, because I'm going to help you to be a heterosexual. So therefore, you come to my church or you come to my living room or my home office and we can practice it. I am not rejoicing when they ban conversion therapy, not even for an entire country, unless they do something significant about how harmful it is. And when we have real change when it comes to mainstream media, especially LGBTQ media, on what stories we tell and what stories we don't tell. So that's my fun part. Thank you, Coronavirus Hard Seltzer. Thank you, Korean-made banjo with the proud eagle on it. And of course, my favorite Trumpy who sold me these things. And thank you to not only my viewers in the present, but my viewers in the future. Fake Zappa loves you. And as your president, I welcome you to my scam that I call the United Countries of North America.